Hey folks, and welcome back to another podcast episode. We've got a really good one this week. It's a more important podcast to me because there's a lot of projects in LUNC. There's a lot of people that are building and a lot of people just build in the background. And Jerry seems to be one of those people, and he's the creator and project lead of LUNASAPIENS. A lot of you may know him from the OG days back all the way in the beginning. But Jerry, welcome to the channel. Thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it. Talk to us. Tell us, how are things going?
Well, I really thought that development might take a little bit, might be a little bit faster than it is, but it's really not. There's with all the updates with Luna Classic, apparently the devs are having lots of workaround issues, and it takes more time. And now we're doing an audit, so we have just a preliminary audit though. Somebody's going in there and looking at the code and combing through it, which is delaying the process, but a necessary step considering what has been going on lately in Luna Classic. And then that will make a milestone for us, and then we finish with the rest of it. And then after the development's completely done, we're going to go ahead and do a third-party audit, which is also going to take some time and money. So that's pretty much the extent of it, because we're not in a big rush because we don't want to rush anything out, and then all of a sudden it's prone to attack like so many other things have happened in Luna Classic. So I'm taking it a step at a time. Some of the NFT holders are kind of impatient, which I understand, but I don't want to get it wrong. You know, once it launches, I want to be able to have that secure feeling that everything's good. Once everything's good, planning on setting up a multi-sig and allowing some of the actual holders to be on that multi-sig, turning it over into a DAO. If that can come to Luna Classic, that would be awesome. There's a DAO maker on 2.0, and then it can be a community controlled multi-sig community wallet where they can move the project any which direction they want to after that this development is complete. So that's the plan. It's just really slow moving.
I like slow moving. I think slow moving. And I think, people like us understand this best, right? We've seen so many projects try to sprint to the finish line, get there as quick as they can, cut corners, and it never ever works out. And it's not like we've watched one project collapse or we've seen one rug. It's a consistent, it's like a tag that's kind of tagged to projects currently that, ones in LUNC, they don't do good, they tend to fail, they tend to rug. It's not something that's uncommon. So I think you're doing all of the right things, Jerry. This making a multi-signature wallet and actually handing it to your community, that in itself is a big step, but it's a step in the right direction because you're not only building something for yourself, for the chain, for holders, you're actually giving it to them. You're giving them control.
Yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully there's a can't remember the name of it. There's an application through 2.0 that allows you to make DAOs, and I want to have a DAO associated with the NFTs themselves to provide people with the voting power that they need to pass governance on the multi-sig. So once there's money flowing and that money goes in there, then they can decide to do whatever they want to do with it. If they want to profit share it, they can do that. If they want to put up a proposal to do something else, some more development, they can do that. And then of course I'm going to be around to help them push it in the right direction if whatever they ask for, right? But I'm not trying to be one of the permanent people on the multi-sig. I mean, I'll set it up and everything like that, but then I'm going to hand it over at some point because I want to give it the project to the supporters, and that's what it's all about anyway.
You're truly decentralizing your own project. So for people that don't know you, Jerry, people who are not in the know about LUNASAPIENS, tell us about it. Tell us about the project, what it does, and where it's heading.
All right. So I had the idea a long time ago to create human robots and then call them LUNASAPIENS. I had an artist do the concept art for it. It looked pretty cool. It's where it's at today. We got some lady sapiens done up to that we may be releasing at some point, but I just don't see a point to doing it yet. And then beyond that, we have a swap that is already developed. That's what's getting audited at the moment for the preliminary audit. And then we're going to do a launch pad, a token launch pad. And then we're going to have some contracts that are there for people to use to launch their own tokens. I'm interested in making them mineable contracts so that they're not necessarily, with tokens that can just mint on their own for no apparent reason, but making them mineable, making them giving people an option to launch a token that they can set up their mining process with it. I think would be kind of like base token, so to speak, right? And then they can do that. And swaps, look at Pancake Swap, for example. People put their LPs in there, and then they get rewarded for having the LP in there as well. And there's transaction fees. Those small transaction fees go back to the swap, not only for providing liquidity, but there is a profit margin, even though it's kind of small. That profit margin is going to be there, going to the community wallet, which is a multi-sig, in which the community will have control of whatever happens with those funds. So essentially, it's going to be profit that is controlled, decentralized through the whole entire NFT project. And same thing with the purchase of any contract that somebody decides to use through the Launchpad as well. And they're going to be audited contracts, and it'll already be in a system. So one thing I noticed about the attacks on any of the hacking or attacks on Luna Classic, it has kind of been from an outside of something that already exists. So it's something that's brand new. And I noticed anybody that's launched any project with Miata, for example, nothing nefarious has happened with those because the code is solid. They're not, there's no security breach there, right? So if I have a launch pad where somebody doesn't have to worry about launching a token and getting it hacked or attacked, they have that option. And then if there is somebody that decides to take out the liquidity, well, then you know what that is. That is whoever had control of that particular wallet did that. They can't say that it got hacked because they'll have a third party on the other end that can look. It's like, no, they can't do that because we got it audited and this is the way it is. So it gives people a little bit of sense of security, but at the end of the day, people still have to do their research on the individual projects, right? Because no matter what platform somebody uses, somebody can still launch a token and decide to not lock the liquidity and do something with the liquidity when no one's looking.
100%. I think there's something really important to take into note with everything in crypto is like, you're never going to be able to prevent everything. If someone's that determined to do it, they'll do it. Now, providing these sort of alarm systems that are, preventative, okay, it makes it very hard, very complex. You don't buy an alarm in the idea that it's going to stop a burglar from burgling your house, because it's not. It's going to deter them. These deterrents are so important. These audits are even more important. And the one similar thing we find is it's always happening in these projects is it's an inside man. And we've seen that get admitted, further along the line. Someone had embedded a line of code, they'd well worked this in. So, I think this process of creating these, deterrents, it's so important. So what you're doing there is, you're never ever going to be able to prevent it, but you're going to be able to say to yourselves, hey, this is who it was. This is where it came from. It's not going to be so easy for someone just to get away with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is like, so obviously somebody can always create their own contract and not use the launch pad and still use the swap. But at least investors will know the difference between using a contracts on the swap and what somebody's allowed to do. And if the LP gets touched, it's whoever was in charge of that particular wallet that did it. There's not going to be an outside hack. It's the code will be checked There won't be anything extra put in those contracts. The contracts will be also audited. And that's part of the reason why it's going to take some time. The contracts haven't been written yet. And I'm talking about the smart contracts for the tokens. They haven't been written yet. And after they're written, they have to be audited too. So it's not just the launchpad and the swap that needs to be audited. It's every single step in the whole entire process. So it's going to take a long time. And I have made people aware of that, but I wish we could launch it tomorrow, but it just, if we do that, we run into the same danger as so many other projects have already. And I would rather not worry about that. Now, could we launch a token in advance? We could. I just don't see the point. Like, why have a token that is promising utility that doesn't have any utility? Why don't we just build and then maybe decide that we don't need a token to award people that set up LPs? Maybe we can just use something that already exists, such as USTC or Luna Classic. We don't need to create a token for no reason. And with regulation coming down and how the crypto market is kind of advancing, the utility in itself would be in the NFT project, because the people holding the NFTs have governance, and then they get to decide what happens with the profit margin. And that's where that utility comes in. So maybe we don't need a token. And I keep going over that over and over again, because so many people rush to launch a token, and I'm just like, why launch a token? Then we gotta stress out about the market and how the market affects the price of the token. Like, if we don't need to do that, if we can just use what's already there, it's probably the best thing we can do. And I believe it can happen. I don't think we need a token as a awards token, kind of like Pancake Swap's got cake. Do we really need something that's going to provide awards if we already have, if we're already collecting fees through the blockchain's token, which is Luna Classic? Why would we need to have a token to represent those awards? So I don't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So I've been building for, a year and a half, exactly the same as yourself, doing all of these things very carefully and very, very, very considerately. Now, I've created recently 4 CW tokens. I know, right? 4, insane. But the way that I've done this is they're actually interwoven into a mobile game, as to which their value is inside that game. So they will never ever be affected by that liquidity situation. The minters are turned off, but this has taken meticulous levels of planning, a lot of different audits from a lot of different people, a lot of different checks. So this is, you can make them just as easy as you can make, an NFT a lot of the time, but it's what goes into them that counts. And the fact that you've just sat there and walked the devil advocate's route in front of me really does go to show how careful you're being about what you're producing, what you're bringing forward, and what it's being utilized for. Because most people would just go, right, let's get a token out there, let's make as much money as we can. And that's simply not the case for you.
No, because, well, tokens are, launching a token is probably the worst way to build capital for a project in crypto, because there is no guarantee. Yes, you could launch a token with a tax, and then you could say that the tax is what's going to go back to the project. Well, people are going to be buying and selling and buying and selling, and they expect to have some type of a profit. And launching a token isn't necessarily going to give you what you need to do the things that you want to do. And I'm probably going to be using some of my personal money throughout the process, but I know once everything is established, I think I'll be able to break even at some point, and then the community, the LUNASAPIEN community, will have control of the project itself. I do hold some of my own NFTs as well, so I mean, I'll also be able to participate. I probably won't. I'll probably leave it up to the community more. So I probably won't vote with mine, just because I like the idea. It builds a stronger community when they have something to do with the direction that it's going. So I'm doing that. The part that I want to do, the part that I said I was going to do, I'm driven to achieve that. And then I want to hand it over, because what's better than one person's idea? Many people's ideas. and then it gets scrutinized in governance, and then it becomes something I never thought it would be at some point. And I'm not looking to profit off of it. I mean, most people are. I'm looking to build something and build something successful as a learning tool for myself, because um, when you actually build and you actually doing something, it makes the learning process that much faster, because you're learning by doing, and then you hit all the problems along the way. And when you hit these problems, you're like, oh geez, now I got to think of this. And it's insane. And I've been involved in tokens before, where I was part of the team, and even one that where the dev decided to take off with the liquidity. Now this is after the project had already failed, so the dev could probably argue it wasn't a rug, but everybody else on the team felt it was, because we didn't all agree to what he did. So in our mind, that's what it was, right? And we're like, well, we want to relaunch it. And his argument was, well, the market's not good right now. We're not going to relaunch. And you go, yeah, you're right. We're not going to relaunch it right now, but we want to relaunch it later, because we made promises and we were going to do things. And long story short, that never turned out the way we wanted it to. So that's part of my hesitation to ever launching a token too, for a project. I don't see the point of ever launching a token unless there is a purpose for launching the token, a purpose outside of trying to raise funds, because you can raise funds through private investors and things like that. You don't have to launch a token to do that. I think that's a very dangerous idea. And what you're doing with a token, you have built-in utility with the tokens, and game economies, which I know you probably found this out, can be very intricate and hard to figure out, and hard to get right. So it's cool to know that you're doing that. And I have lots of ideas about how to make gaming profitable for the user without necessarily using CW tokens, right? Maybe NFT farming, things like that. But I'm sure you've already thought of that.
Yeah, so these CW20 tokens, this is actually the beauty behind them. They hold no value. They'll never hold any value on a chart, and there'll be no liquidity unless someone decides to dump a load of liquidity into it, which would just be very strange. But the value is based inside the game as like a barter chip, a barter item that remains in the game to sweeten deals, sweeten battles, and stuff like that. I can't go too heavily into it, but we're just waiting for our final PR merge with TFL to get our icons up. But it's not easy. Like you're saying, these balancing systems, it's a lot of time spent on an Excel spreadsheet. And it is going through and it's running simulations and seeing what you need to nerf, what needs to sort of be balanced better. And the biggest issue you're always going to find is there's a way you'll plan for something to be utilized, and there'll be a way that it's actually used in game. I'm pretty sure the RuneScape developers didn't make flax in the game for making money, but people figured out that you could farm flax, turn it into bowstring, and then sell it to archers who wanted to level up fast. And you could rinse and repeat that process. But you can never anticipate these things. You can just put in safeguards wherever you can, and do your best to ensure that there is balance. There is a utility case which isn't driven towards, trying to get money. And the greatest thing about what we've developed here with this gem system is nobody ever gets to buy the gems. Nobody ever gets to, get ahead of anybody else. They are released to the community over time. And it's as simple as that. And they go to Penguin NFT holders only. So it's kind of similar what the whole BAYC, their other side has done, apart from they've actually put liquidity into ApeCoin to use as a utility token in that game. We've sort of done the reverse of all of that, but it's so intricate, and it's one of those things where you'll get to a point, you've built it, it is what it is. You airdrop a portion of it out, you release your game, and you see what happens from there. You just got to release it in vested drops, so you're not giving it all out at one time, and you can sort of give a percentage out and get actual real data from real humans who are actually utilizing it during battles and stuff like that. But, you know, so many different routes you can take with this stuff, right, Jerry?
Yeah, I mean, the play testing for gaming is very important. And as far as the swap goes, I mean, how many users are there actually on the Cosmos? Because if you talk to people on other Cosmos chains, they're going to tell you that the user base isn't as large as it needs to be, and that's just a fact, right? So once I get the utility out there, we're kind of sitting and waiting for the popularity to go up, right? So we're looking for an increased user base. When is that going to happen? I honestly don't see it happening until the next bull run, which is probably not going to be until 2025. After, well, I'm basing it on the U.S. election, and if the next president or the current one that gets reelected, who knows what happens, right? If they decide to do some type of economic easing so that people have more expendable income, then there's going to be more money coming into crypto, not just from BlackRock and all these ETFs, but there's going to be retail investment coming in. And the retail investors are the ones that play the games, are the ones that like to, you know, put money in some tokens that may be questionable, like meme tokens and things like that. And that's where the swap's going to benefit the most, is where when a big retail base can come in, and those funds that come from the transaction fees that go put in that multi-sig, that's what's going to make the difference. But it's not going to be an overnight success. I honestly, I'm realistic about that. And I think that anything with Luna Classic, especially with layer 2, if you don't have a long-term outlook on it, and you're just there for it to just think it's going to explode, you know, 2 weeks after you launch it, that to me, for at least for what I'm doing, it seems unrealistic. And it seems like you have to have a long-term outlook on it, because I think the real growth is going to happen in 2026, and I think that's when Luna Classic can really take advantage of a lot more new people coming into crypto at that point, and hopefully grow and get to points, maybe not where we were before, but somewhere significantly from where we're at right now.
Yeah, literally this whole sort of, I know everybody likes to sit on a bag. We all expect things to happen externally to influence internally. But, you know, if we all sit on a bag, we all do nothing, nobody builds, everybody just takes, no one gives nothing back. What more could we expect to happen other than this continuation of a downtrend? It's one of those ones. So, you know, this long-term aspect of building, it's so important. You know, LUNC Penguin started as a tiny project with measly rewards, and it's, you know, it's taken a long time for that to grow organically. You can't force things like that. You just have to simply build it, see if people come. Talking like Field of Dreams, right? But
yeah,
it is literally a Field of Dreams situation with a lot of these things. You just have to have a vision, see the future, and sort of try and see where you fit in with that. And then just build it. And if they come, they come. If they don't, you did your best, right?
Yeah, I've actually seen the Field of Dreams where Kevin Costner filmed the movie at, because it's in my home state.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's in Iowa.
So every time anyone makes the joke, you're like, "Here, dude, I've been there. I actually seen it.
Yeah,
I've seen the field."
they're actually playing a Little League game there when I went there.
It's amazing. But, you know, it's true though, isn't it, right? Like, you don't know if you're going to have utilization of your product, what you're going to develop, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure there will be some. I just don't think it's going to immediately be a success right out the gate. I think that's unrealistic in a bear market, right? Do I think there's going to be some activity? Yes. Do I think there's going to be some growth? Do I think that everybody that minted a LUNASAPIEN at $10 a mint are going to be able to break even at some point from that original purchase? Yes, I do, because that's not a hard goal to make.
No, it's not. It's not a huge amount. I mean, most people would spend $20. I don't know what it is in America. Maybe it's a lot more. But, you know, here in the United Kingdom, you know, the average pizza is about £20, and that's for like a Pizza Go-Go, somewhere like that. If you want Domino's, that's £30. So I think a lot of people understand that when you do invest in an NFT, you're sort of going out on a whim, right? Because there's people who invested in, Yahoo, and then there's people who invested Google, right? Well, the people who invested in Google are doing way better than the people that invested in Yahoo. You've got to put your eggs in multiple baskets with these things, I think.
Yeah, totally. And with an NFT project, it's always good to have more holders as well. And I do have a lot of, we have a lot of holders in LUNASAPIENS that have quite a bit that people have decided to, mint 100.
Oh, 1 second, Jerry, you're cutting in and out. You're cutting in and out. I will just take a pause here a sec, folks. I'll just try and get Jerry back.
Where was I? Yes, I can hear you. Oh, sorry about that. That's probably I don't know if it's.
I'm sorry, Jerry. It's not acceptable. We need you at 100% all the time.
No, and my phone doesn't switch to. There is problem. It doesn't immediately switch to signal. It doesn't know. It's not smart enough, even though it's a smartphone.
It's one of those things. Sometimes you just can't help it. But you are a little bit in and out, but it is coming back now. But Discord was on red, but we're back on green. So I think it might be okay now.
Okay.
Ah, yes, there we go. Perfect.
Awesome. We were talking about is market expectations and project expectations and things like that. So I could be out there right now shilling the project, right? I will start talking about it more, but I'm waiting for the preliminary audit to be complete first before I really start at it, because I don't want people. I do want more new holders, right, to come in, but I don't want to put that plan in motion and motivate people to sweep the floor at this point until I have a preliminary audit done, because then I will feel more confident in what's already been achieved, because I have somebody looking at it that knows what they're looking at, and once we get that preliminary audit done and we move forward with the next step, then I'll have something more to talk about, and I'll have something to back it up. Because right now I just have, yes, we have this going on, we have this complete, but I need a third party opinion so that I have some confidence about it before I push anybody to buy some of these NFTs that are on the marketplace. I want to set people up for a level of success and not just fill them full of dreams and hopes without having something to back it up, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. With everything that's going on recently, it just seems like people are like, right, let's do a space. Let's do a space every day, every hour. Let's talk about it all of the time. We haven't had a security check, but we're going to do it anyway. It's this lack of maturity, this lack of responsibility for, what could possibly happen. And, if butts and coconuts, what, could happen, should happen. That's the way you should treat it in your own head. It's it's not something to be taken lightly. And I think a lot of people do that. So you are doing it right. And it seems you want to grow organically, not forcefully.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a time where there's going to be a little bit of excitement, but I guess I'm trying to curb it at the moment until I have a nice warm fuzzy feeling about what's already been accomplished. And I need to have that warm fuzzy feeling so that I can talk to my whales, because I have a whale group. The largest holders, we're all in the same group, and I talk to them. Haven't been talking to them every day. I was talking to them every day for a while. But I try to update them when I can, and they ask for updates, and I respond, and I'm just like, this is where we're sitting at. And we've been sitting there for a while.
Whales, I think, are so important for projects. A lot of people look at whales in a very negative aspect, and I get it. Crypto whales tend to control, meme coins and markets as such. But for me, I clearly have whales involved in my project, and recently, our final mint, our last mint ever, and these guys have given away like eight leadership positions between them. And one of those leadership positions actually now holds the highest NFT sale on Miata. And it's like, what kind of whales that want to control, manipulate the market and, hurt things, give away valuable NFTs. It's all very interesting to me. It really is. But I think whales have a lot to contribute, and they shouldn't be taken in a negative aspect in NFTs, because look at the people, like we were saying, right, who invested in Google, Yahoo, Tesla, all of these different things, right? They probably bought a lot of shares in it, and they took the time to invest. And for them, they don't just invest, I believe, in things that aren't going to do well. They see a future where possibly they could invest now and they could benefit themselves in the future. So I think they're really important, Jerry. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. Plus, they're the ones that, when it comes to an NFT project, the more you mint, the more risk you take. So those are the people that you really have to make sure you're communicating with. So they're the first ones to hear about everything. They know things about the project that other people don't know, and I keep them informed. And some of it, I'm not like telling them to do anything with the floor, but some of them have been sweeping some of the LUNASAPIENS that get priced under mint value. Some of them been sweeping them here and there, right? I get it. The only thing I can say is I will launch a swap. I will launch the Launchpad, and I will decentralize it, pass the multi-sig over to community members, and I will create a DAO so that the community can control the community wallet, which is that multi-sig, and then have complete governance over what direction the project goes from there. Because my goal is to accomplish what I promised, and I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if we have to, the auditor comes back and says, yeah, this ain't good. You got to start all over, right? If the auditor, probably won't come to that, but that's worst case scenario. Then I'm still going to have to build it. I'll have to figure out how to do it with my own money. I'm already going to be financing it, some of it with my own money. The goal is to get it to where everybody that minted gets value of the mint back. They break even, and now they're in profit. That is the whole entire goal of the whole entire thing. It may take some time. We might have to wait for a bull run for a lot of things to happen like that. However, I want it to be set in place before that happens. And we have time, because I really don't think the true bull run is going to hit until after the elections. And I really don't think it's going to hit until probably 2025, because you have the Bitcoin halving happening around, by block estimation, June 2024. But if you look at historical graphs in Bitcoin, it's usually the year later where the big runs happen. So 2025 is going to be nice. And I think there's going to be some growth in 2026, because those institutional investors are going to take advantage of low prices that are going to be coming up in crypto in general. And they're going to get big positions And then the retail investors, which will be late compared to everybody that put in when the market was low, will come in and flood the crypto market. And we're going to see the biggest market caps we've ever seen in crypto history around 2025, 2026. I really believe that. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think I might be right on that one. And getting my information from guys that know what they're doing, like Gareth Soloway and those kind of guys that talk about the economy all the time and talk about S&P 500 and NASDAQ and all that kind of stuff. And I think right now is the time to build so that you're ready for when the real growth is going to happen,
100%. I mean, you'd have to be a fool, right, to have the idea of wanting to be part of something that could be huge and then, building once it all starts to go boom. It just makes no sense. But I guess for a lot of retail level investors, they're going to wait for that. But for me, you build now, you do it organically, you do everything correctly, and you just sit there. You do the Riddick and you sit at the back of the bus and you just keep building. Because when it does boom, you're just going to be on this tidal wave, which is it's just going to sweep the retail world. Everybody who's anybody is going to be looking for things to invest in. It doesn't matter what it is if it's going up, they're going to want to get involved.
100%. And I mean, the next thing after that, after we pass everything over to the community and community governance, if they want to change the roadmap or if they want to do something different, they absolutely can, because it'll be in their complete and total control. Now, they're NFT nuts like I am, so they're probably going to want to also build a collector's application where you can go in there and you can sort your NFTs. That doesn't really exist in crypto, right? There's some marketplaces that kind of have some cool little sections where you can kind of sort your NFTs. But when you look at OpenSea and all these other ones, it's not really there. And I don't think it would be very hard to implement and make. But I want something like that to be done for collectors.
If you think about it, you actually already have a system ready to rock. People are familiar with and people actually understand. You could just take a copy of the repository of Station, take a copy of the core, reproduce that, and instead of having LUNC as the governance token, you have your NFTs as the governance token. That giving the ability for anybody with a LUNASAPIEN, right, the ability to vote on things that are proposed by, guess what, people who are part of LUNASAPIENS, thus holding, thus having a vote, thus getting to have a say. I think for you, you could do a token, but at the same time, why do that? You've already got, your NFTs ready to utilize. I think myself personally, there's a way that you could definitely reproduce a system like we already currently use for our governance here in Terra Classic, and instead, reverse engineering it to work for your NFTs. And people would understand it, right? It would be recognizable. It would be very similar to what Station is currently. The reason why I know this to be possible is we have produced a system like this before for something else way in a land, back last year when we were really new to the scene. But it's definitely possible, Jerry.
Yeah, I think Enterprise DAO is the one on 2.0 where people can make their own DAO with their tokens, right? And I'm pretty sure you can do it with NFTs as well. I haven't taken a deep dive on it yet because I'm concentrated on what's currently happening. But I think the DAO has to happen and the reins need to be put over to the community. And, if they want certain things to happen and they put up a proposal, and then so be it. Because I used to be very opinionated about proposals, and you know this too because we're always talking about proposals back in the day. I'm not as opinionated about proposals now. I think that it's an open market, so to speak. If somebody wants to put up a good idea or an idea that they think is good, they can put it out there and people can vote on it, right? Same thing. Some of the best ideas might come from somebody that you've never even had an opportunity to talk to that's in the community. And if they put up a proposal, and everybody loves the idea, then that's a great way for the community itself to farm for a better direction for a project. But I like the idea of completely decentralizing it, because I want to get to a point where everybody that spent $10 on the mint, they're able to earn that $10 back. Once that's done, everybody that owns an NFT, now it's just they're earning with that NFT, and they're pushing the direction of the company, so to speak. It's decentralized. So I don't know. I guess I'm geeking out about decentralization, and I like the idea of it. And I guess that's the main reason why I want to move in that direction.
I mean, yeah, taking a deeper dive into their document system for enterprise money, you're 100% right. You can create an NFT community DAO. The prerequisites for this are real simple. It actually looks like they tender minted the absolute bejesus out of making a DAO. This actually looks really good. Taking a look at this now, Jerry, it's definitely a good route to go with things if you want to be able to do what you're going to do. You've got an overview, you've got the treasury, you've got proposals, you've got staking as well, which possibly, a lot of NFT projects now, especially on Luna Classic, a format was put forward to provide staking for NFTs on Miata, and that's what everybody does now. And it's so important that you can have a place where you can cluster this all in. So for me, looking at this and looking into the docs, it looks absolutely perfect for what you're looking to do.
Yeah, I mean, Luna V-Shape is the one that turned me on to Enterprise DAO originally. He's got a lot of cross chain experience in the Cosmos, so he understands a lot what's going on with, Cosmos wide, not just Luna Classic, right? He's pretty involved in White Whale. He was the one that introduced us to CenCom for the podcast that we're doing when we had CenCom on too. And I thought that was wonderful because they had already had in the back of their minds that they were going to come back to Luna Classic at some point. And I'm glad we had them on there. We introduced them to the L1 team and everyone that we knew so that they could move in the direction they wanted to go. And they told us, hey, we can't do it until our community says yes. And we can't do it unless there's a certain, it has to be a particular version of Cosmos before we can come over, because it makes no sense for us to come over when we're updated and you guys aren't yet. So it was a process, and I think they're pretty close now. And I haven't paid attention to tweets today, but I think they're getting pretty close.
This auto mic. I've got a mute feature on this microphone. When it detects you're not talking, it's like, okay, I'm going to mute myself. You're not talking, you're not using me. I'll turn myself off. A little scoop for people listening and wondering who's going to be on the next podcast. It's Semcom. I think they must be close, Jerry, if they're, wanting to speak to people that are building on the blockchain. They're sort of wanting to come out of their shell a little bit more. It's so important we pay attention to what's going on outside the cosmos, right? If we want to attract everyone back, how do we do this? Well, we start very simply by getting a few people over. And then those people come, they join the chain, they come back, and they go and tell all of their friends, I've gone back to Luna Classic. And they all go, I can't believe you've done that. And then they look, and then they start to see, after doing their own research, hey, things are going well. But this whole, like you're saying, they need the system to be in parity with their systems, right?
100%, yeah. And every time I'm talking to you, I'm looking for, to put where the thumbs up emoticon is, or the 100 emoticon.
I've done that once, actually. Do you know, during this thing, I've done that once. I was like, where's the like button? I really like what he's saying right now.
Right. And so we have we basically have a non-disclosure agreement with some of the things that White Whale has told us. So I know some things, but I cannot say anything. That they will release it when they're ready to release it. And not saying like I'm not bragging about that. It's just I know things are looking good, but I don't know when the launch is, though. I have no idea. That's the one thing I don't know.
For us right now, right, that kind of incentive, regardless of you being able to drip exclusives to us, get him, he's got an exclusive, quick. But it's important that incentive starts to come back to this chain. And it starts as just people talking, people thinking, people getting together in meetings and speaking to each other. This chain, it's like a lot of people would say it's run aground. I don't believe we've run aground. I believe we're like wedged like on a coral, and we're struggling to get off, and we just need more people to stop like adding to the weight of everything all the time. But this people coming back, people like having Semcom on next week, it's great. It really is great, because the more of us that talk about this, the more of us that speak about it and actually address these things. And I mean, you run the Uninterrupted podcast, the real mothership, I would say, of podcasting on this chain. You're one of the first people to start going, I want to do a podcast show. I want to do a podcast show. I want to do a podcast show. And you did that. The fact that we're all talking about this, it's more good incentives, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I go, okay, so I got to be honest, I do ignore a lot of the noise on Twitter. I don't really partake. I don't comment. I read a lot of it, sure. I don't go down the holes of what this person said or this here said or that. I don't dig that deep. There was a time I did, but for
One second, folks. Just a couple of technical difficulties.
How's it sound now? That's weird. Discord has some issues sometimes, doesn't it?
It does. It's really peculiar. I think when you buy the premium, you don't get these kind of issues, though. It's just a conspiracy theory, though. I don't know.
It might be. I had premium for a while, and I didn't keep up with it. Although I'm thinking about doing it again, because we've been doing a lot of our business on Discord, so it makes sense. I just haven't had too many issues with it lately, but I had issues with it in the past. So, and you might be right, because when I had premium, no problems whatsoever.
Yeah, ditto on that. When back in the Terror Rebels days of it all being like this okay thing, I had premium back then, and I never had a problem.
Yeah, it's odd how that is. I mean, they probably just give you preference for bandwidth, and that's probably where it comes from, I would imagine, because you're paying for it. So, yeah. But yeah, CENTCOM and White Whale, that whole entire crew, it's not just White Whale protocol. They have a suite of other utilities that kind of roll with them everywhere they go. And now with the I think you've also talked to Bitmoss, or you're going to talk to Bitmoss at some point. We had them on. Now, I don't know them as well as I know CENTCOM, but what they're trying to do seems really cool. And we're trying to introduce them to CENTCOM because White Whale's already on multiple chains. That might be able to help them expedite getting across the cosmos, not just Luna Classic, right? So, like, it's all about collaboration, getting everybody talking and getting everybody working together. And then if you're building, just ignore the noise, because there's so much noise.
I honestly don't know how people have that much time in the day to be just there talking and paying attention and, having everything to reply back to someone. I don't understand how you can balance it in real life job, balance everything else, work and build. Like, I just don't understand. Like, you must be like 4 or 5 armed at that point. You must have some sort of special tablet we all don't have. Like what's that film? Limitless? Is that the film?
Oh, where he's taking the drug that makes him more intelligent.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very peculiar to me. I've always noticed this with you, Jerry, especially since you launched your whole project and LUNASAPIENS, doing the podcast, that you're just building. You're real quiet. You don't got a lot to say because, you've not got a lot to produce to people right now. And you're not being in this podcast right now going, oh, go buy LUNASAPIENS. We're going to be promising you guys the moon. And you're actually saying to people, like, hey, we're taking our time with this, whether you like it or not. This is the way it's going to happen. But we'll hand it over to you when the time comes. It's, we need more people like this. We need more people like Semcom, Bitmos, and I've actually got a podcast with Bitmos as well. So, I'm trying to do my best as well to speak to as many different people because, like you're saying, they bring more than just incentive, right? They bring tools for people to use. And that's so important that we have all of these different tools, right? The biggest issue I found is we've always got to pay for these tools. We've always got to rent these tools. We can never just have people turn up and go, hey, this is for the blockchain. I mean, Cole's recently developed a token factory, and I think this has gone quite unnoticed. And he's simply just gone, hey, this is for the blockchain. I take nothing. It's all for the chain. I mean, that's what we need.
Yeah. I mean, and Cole's amazing because I know when when it was time to launch the LUNASAPIENS, he was just on point the whole entire time. He made the whole entire process so seamless. So hold on to him. I mean, I'm not aware of your association with him completely. I'm assuming he's one of your devs, but I'm not entirely sure. All I know is I really appreciate his professionalism because he made it awesome.
I can honestly say to everybody here, especially to you, and a lot of other people will know this in our community, that Strafe is a very kindred spirit. He doesn't take orders and he doesn't work for anybody. He doesn't take sides. He helps anybody. If you come to him with a problem and he can help, he'll be there. If you need guidance on a project, he's there. The most beautiful thing of when I met him and we decided to build that LUNC Dash website, which at the time was just LUNCpenguins, it was just a thing where we've always sort of, we argue so much. Like, I think a lot of people probably won't know this, but we argue about like almost everything every day. We're like arguing, but we always meet in the middle. But I'm very fortunate. I do not ever take that for granted one bit. And what I find beautiful about him is he wants to be here. He could be anywhere, right? He could be earning loads of money. He could create his own blockchain within probably a couple of days. He's like Sheldon Cooper, but on steroids and limitless tablets.
Nice reference.
Literally, I don't think there's I always call him GOAT. He's like, don't call me that. I'm not a GOAT. I'm like, you're the greatest of all time, period. But, he's such an amazing guy and he doesn't shun anybody. Like anybody. There's no one he won't help. There's no one he won't speak to. There's no one he won't give the time of day that he wouldn't give to me. And that's the beauty of it. He's such an amazing guy, honestly. Can't say enough about him.
Totally agree. I didn't know him before, but as soon as I had my first experience, it was like the best first impression I've ever had from anybody on Luna Classic, I swear. Like, it was amazing. Like, he's a professional, and I can say that PSX and myself don't see eye to eye on everything sometimes, right? However, he gives me feedback, and sometimes it's tough love type feedback where most people would be like, screw you, or what, like, but I'm very open to feedback, and I've been able to take what he says and then use it. And I still screw up on the podcast. I mean, people might listen to the podcast sometime and like they don't know what I'm talking about. But I have somebody that's been in media for a while, nitpicking and looking for the mistakes and telling me what they are and telling me to fix them. So that's a good thing. So I do have a relationship like what you have with Strathgoal, with PSX, although I'm usually the one getting corrected, not so much him, because
Definitely.
he's essentially managing it.
What I've always found with Strath is he never, ever, ever, especially with that kind of level of intelligence, you normally get a very condescending attitude from those sort of people. Like anything you say is, you know, they're like way higher than you, whereas he comes to you with a very respectable attitude. He respects what you've got to say, even if he doesn't agree with it. And then he'll tell you he doesn't agree with it. He'll tell you why he doesn't agree with it. And then, you know, it's like one of the, like how PSX is with you. We don't always see eye to eye, but ultimately you've got to respect one another. And that is something that, it's very lacking. And, there's probably people out there who know me and you to have probably had, small bickering matches a long time ago now. But ultimately, right, we're all building towards the same thing. And I think those days are long and gone for people like us. And we are simply here with that same vision of seeing the blockchain grow.
Yeah. Because and the blockchain is going to need layer twos. And a lot of this, the bickering that you're talking about, outside of, our own individual layer two and podcast conversations, the blockchain itself has a lot of bickering going back and forth, and usually it has to do with whether we burn something or whether we use it for development or layer two. It's crazy.
Something we always do though, what do? We message each other and just chat instead of going on Twitter going, he probably thinks this and, I think this, and just going nuclear all the time. It's like, God, Jesus Christ. Like, we're all supposed to be adults. Yes. But
it's crazy how much time they have to put into it. It's nuts.
Definitely. I mean, when you do a podcast, right, a lot of time goes into it. We all live in different time zones. It's not easy to get that all together. And then you probably go and you do your own research if you don't know who that person is and what they do. You spend a lot of time, I think, like spaces and stuff. It's just like it's like a way for people to like clear their stressed minds a lot of the time. You say stuff you don't mean and it all just gets out of hand at that point. We've witnessed it ourselves before all of this.
Oh yeah. And we, I told you privately, and I can say this out in public too. We have policies that we follow, and one of our policies is behavior. So if somebody wants to be on the podcast, and we don't charge money for the podcast. It's a way, if you want your community to get to know you better without somebody trying to talk over you, you can come to our space and not get interrupted. But if you're displaying some questionable behavior on social media and Twitter, whether it's Twitter or whether it's Commonwealth or wherever it's at, we're looking, and we'll suspend your project or suspend you specifically for 3 months and see if you make a change. And if you don't, we're just like, well, we can't help you. If you don't care about your PR, then you don't care about our PR, and then we can't help you. So sorry. And that's just something we follow. And it's been good because it's kept us from, talking to certain individuals anyway, that where problems arose later on and we didn't see it coming. It's just we're being, what do you call it? We're not being judgmental. We're just following the policy.
Being responsible, Jerry. With everything, there's a level of responsibility, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that come to podcasts to listen, and sometimes people act on that information, whether there's disclaimers up or not. It's out of our control, but we're here to talk about things and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Honestly, you're doing the right thing. And, the Uninterrupted podcast is actually something I tune into when and wherever I can. it's something that I like, and I like the way you've built it, the way you've gone organically about this. And some people would sit there and go, "Oh, they're just being picky," and it's not like that. You know, if you have, for example, someone who's rugged a chain on for like $250,000 or something, are people going to be okay with that? No, of course they're not. If someone has those same intentions, portrays those same intentions, and does that publicly to portray their public image like that, why would you have them on the podcast? It makes no sense.
Right, and we typically stay away from the AMA style. We try to get into the individual stories and things like that. Some more of the interesting aspects of being human. So, having Terraport, for example, on the podcast, probably not going to happen. Just kind of depends on. We're always watching. We're watching everything, and if something looks good, I don't know. There's some projects have dug a hole for themselves after they dig it out, and as long as all our policies are being followed, and we don't impose our policies on other people. We just like if you're portraying yourself a certain way that we don't want to be drugged down that same path, we can't have you on. This is simple.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I've always, and it's not even a thing about being careful or like, when would I have Terraport on a podcast? If they made holders whole again, if they fixed the situation. The only people that can fix that is themselves, I find people always be like, right, we've got to relaunch, everybody's got to buy again, double down, everything could be okay. And it's just, there's no care or consideration for holders. It makes the Wild West of DeFi even worse.
Yeah, it's a very crazy and unfortunate situation. Now, Diamond Hand's platform, he can get away with that because he sets himself up to where he can ask those difficult questions, put people on the spot. And if you can get past difficult questions, if you're in a situation like that, I think it looks better on you. So I think if someone, he did do that. Terraport did go there.
Yeah, I think he went on Trev's as well, didn't he?
Yes, I think so, actually. Yeah. Those are good platforms for that. I know you do a lot of AMAs here and there, but I think you're a little bit. So, well, I can say we're selective with what we do because we don't do 3 podcasts a week, right? We do typically 1, maybe 2 a week most.
It's not easy to find people that have not so much an interesting story, but like I don't like to just get people on that are just like random people. I like to find people, like you're saying, who've got a story, they're building something, they've got a vision, and they're trying to, develop. It's always so important to not pick the right people, but kind of pick the right people. It's a very fine line. It really is. So I think for myself, something I learned recently of my last podcast, which was like more like an AMA, is just stay away from them sort of things, and stay away from these sort of people who deem themselves as leaders, because I don't believe LUNC needs a leader. What I believe it needs is just more and more dedicated validators. And I know you yourself, you're not validating the blockchain, but by God, I believe you should be doing it.
Yeah, you told me that before.
It's because you're a builder, Jerry. You're not self. You're not just trying to just pillage and plunder this blockchain. You're very collective. You think things out. You've been here more or less as long as I have, right?
I think there's a way that it can happen. However, it would be a situation where after I get that multi-sig done, and then I release my control of it and give it over to the community, there can be a LUNASAPIEN validator, but then the people that run the multi-sig would be the ones doing it, not me. And then that, if they make any profit going back and forth, that would be up to them. It would go back to their community pool through the multi-sig. I think there's a way it could happen that way. I just can't associate myself with anything political, because being a validator puts you in a political spotlight, because I like to be neutral with that podcast. And that gives me the opportunity to have people on with diverse views and be able to discuss it. And then people can hear what they have to say without them being interrupted by somebody that doesn't agree with them. And then they can make up their own mind. Because I think part of the problem in all communities in crypto is you have the loudest voices that are the ones that are being heard, and people are listening to what they're listening to. Sometimes they don't get to listen to the alternate viewpoints, or the person that just remains behind the scenes and doesn't really talk that much. They don't get to talk to those people or listen to what they have to say. Well, now we're giving them an opportunity to listen to what they have to say, and then they can go back and be like, make up their own mind what they think about that person, instead of taking somebody else's word for it. And that was the whole purpose, because like you mentioned earlier about the spaces getting a little chaotic in Luna Classic a while ago, right? And I'm sure they still do occasionally. I got to a point where I was like, I want to be able to have a space where, say, somebody like Alex, for example, I had him on my podcast pretty early on. I'm like, sometimes he goes to spaces and people talk over him and we don't get to hear what he has to say. And I wanted to create that platform, and I think we did it. I think we succeeded in that.
Yeah, no, I've listened to that one. I must agree. You're right. Some people as well like orchestrating chaos through spaces, and they'll have like certain people up because they know they're going to come up and make the fun out of stuff or just be a complete idiot. And it loses its serious aspect, or this information given aspect. And I think what a lot of people do, they do the 1 hour of information given and the rest is just a free for all of whoever wants to come up and cause chaos or who wants to come up and speak. And then it becomes people shouting and, oh yeah, it's not. And then people start making fun out of each other. I'm like, great, now we've resorted to like name calling and stuff. Ugh.
Well, I mean, that's just hanging out then, right?
Yeah.
Not even a space anymore. But I mean, I get it. I understand. Like, I used to hang out in those spaces a lot, and I had fun, but I would say 90% of it wasn't very serious.
So many spaces that me and you would be in where there was, you know, certain people, I'm not going to name them, but certain people, and they're just there just to create chaos. They just admitted, I think one time they're like, yeah, I used to do this on Luna for a job. It's, oh my God, it was funny at first. It's just like,
For real?
yeah. Oh man, I honestly, one day I'm going to have to just like go and get off grid and just listen to every single video I've ever put up, because some of them have recordings in of things like that. And it's like, back then we would all make fun of it. And it's like, now I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, they're just orchestrating chaos because they enjoy it.
Sometimes
Sickos.
I wonder, like, are they doing it just because they think it's funny, or are they, or is someone paying you to question, like, because like it's weird because some of the same individuals would go to one space, ask a question, and then go to another space an hour later, ask the same exact question, right? And then say the same exact rebuttals to the answers. And I'm just like, what the heck? I've heard you ask this same question like 4 times today. I've been in all these spaces. Now I'm not in that situation anymore, but you might be onto something there.
Yeah, conversation baiting. We see it all too often now. And, you know, I always thought to myself as well, like, why do it? Like, why are we such a problem for these people, right? And now I always think to myself, well, we're identical to Luna. We're like a copy of a copy. And then we hold the only algorithmic stable coin in the sector. For anybody else to be able to utilize it, you need to fork it off chain. And it's just like, if you keep, you know, knocking this chain down, you know, you make it worthless. How hard would it be at that point to say to the community, look, it's dead. You can see it's dead. We've killed it. Let's just fork USTC off to, I don't know, Luna. And I think to myself, you know, this is the financial sector, right? So imagine we repeg USTC. Like, how much money is that? How much money is that? You know, billions. Nah, no one's going to fight over it, though, I don't reckon.
Yeah, there's definitely incentive there. And
exactly, right? That incentive runs deep.
100%. And a lot of these a lot of actors that are probably partaking in the trolling and the shit posting, whatever you want to call it, right? Over and over and over again, and going to, being in space and causing chaos. You kind of have to ask yourself, why would anybody do anything unless they're incentivized to do so? If you're spending 15 hours on Twitter every day over the same exact topic over and over and over again, me personally, I was motivated for quite a while, really diving deep into everything, going down every rabbit hole. I got to a point where I was exhausted and I had to let go. But there's some people that don't let go. So I'm wondering, what would motivate me to do the same thing? I would have to be getting paid. Straight up, I would have to be getting paid to motivate me to do that day in, day out.
Okay, but now think about this, right? You're a company, let's say an entity. You were part of the run up from 32 pence to $116 a coin, right? Your chain crashes, you lose everything. A guy like DK then suggests they should fork the chain and airdrop you everything that you had in your worth, but not in the same value, but it could become worth the same value, right? You've got just Luna now. You've got nothing. You've lost all your millions. You've lost everything. If LUN succeeds, where does that leave Luna? Where does it leave all of those businesses, all of those people that lost out? And then people like you came along and bought, a few million coins for like $2.20 or something.
Yeah, it was cheap then, right?
So I think, it's quite obvious, with all of the validators building off chain, right? And all of those that are effectively building on Luna and also validating here, I think it's quite obvious. And I think for them, they treat it like a business, and there'll be a point where one chain's going to succeed and one's probably not going to succeed. And I think it's going to come down to, very minuscule things at the end of it all.
Yeah. So, I mean, your bigger investors, your I would say institutional investors. It's not Web 2 institutions. It's Web 3 institutions, right? That have the Luna 2.0. Yeah, they have a motivation to make sure that they have a bigger piece of the pie. And to say that they don't have that interest is I think would be a lack of common sense, right? They definitely have an interest to see Luna Classic fail.
Oh, this mic.
You still there?
Yeah, that click. Someone said to me before, dude, I can always hear clicking when I'm ever like talking to you. I'm like, it's the mic. It just keeps muting itself. Really fancy features. Yeah, so there's a lot for those who are over at Luna to lose if we gain. And that's always going to be the problem. We're a threat. We're like the baby brother who could grow up to actually dethrone its older brother. And I think, all of these people, they didn't anticipate for people like us to pick it up and go, hey, maybe we can do something with this. Maybe we can fix it. I really don't think they anticipated that. I think they anticipated it would die. It would be left. They could fork USTC over. No one would argue it. The validators would agree because they were the active ones on there. Bish, bash, bosh. Real simple. But
yep.
Yeah.
Well, what's weird about it is, when you look at the real world, you can definitely go to war with somebody and bend their will to your own, because that's essentially what war's about. You don't want to do what I say, well, then I'm going to make you do what I say. So you're forcing somebody to follow what you want them to do. So they can take that, or they can collaborate. I think collaboration between the chains would be more of a solution and more powerful, more profitable for everyone. However, that's not human nature, is it? Unfortunately, it's not. But I think there's a way that collaboration between all the cosmos can make everything work. And I think that the success of Luna 2.0 can be directly tied in with the success of Luna Classic and vice versa.
I think TFL, especially these new developers, have come to realize something recently is, we could be a very, very big part of their future. We could provide a lot and they could utilize us quite well as a community and as a coin and give us a fighting chance. They've never really been bothered with doing legacy updates. They've really left us in the dark. And with the recent developments, I think what I've come to of my own opinion is these attacks come from actual individuals that have lost out, people who are very unhappy, very sour. But I think TFL, especially this new development team, I think they believe in us. You know, providing that legacy update dated infrastructure comes down to one guy, one developer, from what I've been made aware, that's actually making the effort and has been given the job of making sure legacy's running, it does what it's supposed to do, and it's for free. Like, they're not charging us for that, they're not threatening to take it away, they're not handing it over either, right? And they ain't responding to none of us when we ask. So then that lends credence again to a path in my head where I think, hey, they want us to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the chatter about the repeg that has kind of and the recent like direction that's going. That's a pretty hot topic too. I mean, we don't have to talk about that if you don't want
No,
to.
I
But,
definitely wanted to talk about it, to tell you the truth, because my opinion is, right, a repeg's possible. It's all possible. Anything's possible. Crazier things have happened. But if we address the real world current issues with the chain, you simply can't repeg something with the Oracle rewards pool paying out USTC. To make that kind of change requires a blockchain halt. Doing all of that is going to take longer than a month. So I'm just confused as to where this is all going, if that makes sense. Like, if we're not plugging the holes, but we're pushing ahead, what's going on?
yeah, I am not in the information highway on that, on the repeg specifically, unfortunately. But I like the idea of doing it step by step, where you don't repeg it to $1 right away. We wouldn't be able to recover from that economic disaster, right? And we don't have enough money to even do that.
We wouldn't be able to hold it neither. Luna or Luna Classic would have to be used as the more just the liquidity to maintain the peg like before.
Yeah, it wouldn't do so well. But putting it to a higher peg than maybe where it's at right now, but not that much higher, and then slowly build it, it could probably, it's promising. And I think that
100%, 100%. But the issue being is, so say you repeg it to 10 cents, right? What's everybody gonna do who's got rewards from the Oracle rewards pool? They're gonna sell.
Absolutely.
Not all of
that's
them.
why I like Redline's solution for that, but there are lots of hurdles to provide an economic solution like that. It makes sense to me to decentivize people from selling and incentivize people from scooping it up, right? When it gets depegged. His whole idea is just, it's amazing. The only problem is when you have USTC being traded in other places, those other places don't follow your blockchain rules. So how does that work without communicating with them and without getting them to do the same thing? And they probably don't want to do it, and maybe they can't do it. I don't know, but I like that people are talking about it and trying to think of solutions.
Definitely. What's your opinion on more or less this idea, right, of seeing a wallet that has got a lot of USTC or Luna Classic in it? Let's play devil's advocate here. And, going to yourself, Terra 125967D5TTT776 belongs to this person, and, they're not using those funds, so we should delete them. That to me is a big slippery slope.
Oh, I think you're referring to the whole back and forth that happened on Twitter over the 800 million USTC. And yeah, if that becomes a precedent, that's not a good thing. And that whole thing, just the way things were going, like there's people in the community that actually believe that people that are not in the community have nothing to do with the community. Yes, a previous business by a different name, which these individuals weren't a part of, did take a grant from Luna Classic. And by rights, do they have to pay it back? Yes. However, our governance doesn't govern them. So why not keep the working relationship positive? Because they don't need to, if a proposal tells them to jump, they're not going to come back and say how high, because they're not governed by our governance. They're a separate entity, completely off-chain entity that just happens to hold USTC from a grant that was given to them by TFL or Duquan or whatever from previous times. So if you want them to comply, I think it takes a little bit more of a surgical approach with the rhetoric that you decide to use. And I was trying to relay that message in a space that I had with some people that were upset, like, well, the proposal passed, they need to pay back the money. And they're like, pay back my money, B, and all this. I'm like, I mean, I get that, but you don't see what I'm trying to tell you. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't say they weren't going to pay it back, but having the personal attacks on them when they weren't involved with it originally seems a little bit off-putting to me.
Yeah, I think there's a lack of irresponsibility when bringing funds like this forward, that if you haven't been given the green light, why even move to a proposal? Like, even now with that situation, we were asked all again to vote on another proposal to get it to pass, to get these funds to bund, because we had been told they would burn on the order of this final proposal. And once again, they haven't burnt. And ultimately, right, like you're saying, this is something that's out of our control. And my argument to burning, what people deem as, zombie funds that they have a right to, and this happens, so, they belong to us. Okay, that may be the case, like we're saying, but does not give us the right to just burn people's coins. It doesn't give us the right to destroy a supply that we do not own, right? We wouldn't simply go to ourselves, oh, well, look, here's Binance's wallets. We know they're Binance's wallets. We know that they're not using those funds, and they haven't used them, and they haven't moved them, and they haven't done anything, and they're not going to do anything with them, as they've publicly stated. They wouldn't then go and burn their funds, because they know from historical, events and how Binance do things and the way we've been punished before, they would react to that. And it's just, there's no one on the other side of that wallet going to them, well, if you do that and you do repeg it, we are going to be, annoyed, because we'll go to look for our coins and go, oh, they've repegged it. And they go, look, and our coins are gone. Well, where have my coins gone? Why am I not rich again? Why have I not made all my money back that I've lost?
I know if we did get access to those funds and it just went to the community pool, and then we decided whether we were going to burn it or not, and people don't like the extra step, I don't mind it, because just send it to the community pool and then we decide what to do with it, because then we have control of it. And that's what I was trying to say, right? Because just get it back, and then after you get it back, then put up proposals on what to do with it, and then you guys can campaign on, burn half of it, burn all of it, don't burn any of it, campaign all you want. I can see a case for both sides. Burning 100% of it kind of helps the repeg, right? Because it makes sense, because it makes the repeg a little bit easier. Not much easier, but a little bit easier. And then you get to a point where it's 50-50. Well, you're helping the repeg a little bit, but then you're holding on to some, and now you're attracting layer twos that otherwise would not have came, because they won't come unless you give them a little bit of money, right? So that's kind of, we're not going to have that choice if they just burn it. And the community already voted to burn it, so it's whatever. That's what they want. So yeah, burn it. When somebody passes a proposal, whether you agree with it or not, it's like, well, that's what's got to happen, because it got passed.
Exactly. So, I think the biggest argument used by those wanting those funds to burn was, well, we don't want to see them, used to pay teams. We don't want to see them be dumped on the market. And then we come to a huge funding issue where the maths say to us, hey, guess what? Your bank balance is not matching what you've got to pay out in bills. Like, my bank would say to me, hey, you're going to go withdrawn this month. Like, you need to do something about this, dude. they were saying, we don't want to we don't want to pay teams, but in order for them to even get close to being able to pay the quarterly fees, they're going to have to liquidate 5.5 million USDC straight into the market. And it's like, where do we stop cherry picking with these things? Where did things stop being okay for one person but not okay for another person? I don't understand. And what's even worse, right? A desperate community, they believe in this repeg and they'll believe what they're fed. And if they're told by people who are paid to, do this sort of thing that, hey, we should burn them, hey, this is going to be really good, they're going to listen to that. But then if you go and you provide historical data to these teams and say, hey, we burnt 12% of the supply before, okay, in the exact same manner, and it dumped the price, and the price didn't recover until like a couple of months ago. It's very peculiar to me the way things do get treated, and people do ignore real world data and real world events. It's one of those ones. And what I do know is the more we destroy now, the more we can remint later, because that's the idea behind it.
Yeah, a burn only looks good if it's a buyback burn.
Yes.
If it's a straight burn, it looks like you're dumping the chart. Unfortunately, that's how it reads. And what happens to everyone's wallets is the price of the tokens might go up, but the supply goes down. Really, the value of what you have is the exact same as it was before the burn. But if it's a buyback burn, well, then you get your price increase. So and it's not going to be a buyback burn.
No. A lot of people, like you're saying, they simply think, hey, there's 500 coins. We've just destroyed 10% of those coins. So the rest of the coins now get what that, value was then divided between them. It doesn't work like that. You're simply destroying liquidity. You're destroying part of our own actual market cap. It's insane.
I mean, the whole concept of supply and demand does go into this, right?
Yeah.
But for the supply to be reduced and for it to have an effect on the market, it's not an immediate effect. It just doesn't happen overnight. Like when the U.S. decreases supply of the dollar, it's been a while since they've done that, but when they did, it didn't just immediately increase the value of the spending power of the dollar overnight. It didn't. It takes time with the market, all the other markets, to catch up to that activity. Now, a buyback burn would be different, but does the government buy back and burn? Absolutely not. So, I mean, really, it's the same concept. And unless it's a buyback burn, and the only way that's ever going, anytime a burn's actually going to look good on graph is a buyback burn. And if you don't have the value of 800 million USTC to buy, then it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work like that. So it's just burning to burn. And
Yeah.
I get it. Decreasing the supply helps. It helps. But I think keeping a portion of it could be utilized in other ways as well, just because, like you said, we have funding issues, and wouldn't it be nice to be able to throw some proposals in a direction to fix the Oracle pool? I mean, it's like one of the most important things to worry about, I think.
Would it not be a sight for the Oracle pool to start going upwards? Wouldn't it just be a sight?
Oh, I would love it.
Everybody's rewards would start to increase. Everybody would be happy. Everything would start to go back up. Everything would be a bit more healthy. Yeah, it's a very peculiar situation we are in, especially with funding right now. The inability to even think about, having a marketing team or an L2 team or anything like that. It's insane where the money goes each and every month. And it's a considerable amount. And I think people don't look at it as that much because they see it as LUNC coming out of the community pool. It's simply just this many LUNC coins. There's never a dollar value really put on it every time.
Yeah, I mean, the narratives that we talked about before, where people that are motivated to see Luna Classic fail, they wouldn't want anything but a burn from that USDC coming in, because
100%.
even if a portion of it was kept, that puts us in a healthier position. We look better to an outside investor the bigger that community pool gets, or the Oracle pool for that matter. The bigger those become, we look that much more attractive to outside investors looking at Luna Classic, but hasn't, decided not to be a part of it yet. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that might be a motivation behind it too.
Yeah, no, you can look at technical real world data once again, look at historical accounts. What happens every month? Binance does a big burn, right? Every month. Every month, without fail, we have had that burn for 12 months in a row. Right? It's never made the price go up, right? Because they're not buybacks. Okay, they've already happened. Throughout that period of time, all of those have already happened, and they're literally just taking the profit from that and burning it. They're the ones who profit from the liquidity. They're the ones who are seeing all of the liquidity trading on their blockchain. Like, I think that's what a lot of people fail to understand, is that, there's all these historical accounts that around us we can look at. That burning's simply not working in the way that it should. And it's the same with the burn tax right now. As soon as the blockchain starts to boom, everybody's going to want to put the burn tax back up to 1.2%. You're never going to win, ever.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how I feel about that as an individual. Tax is never good on anything. People don't want to pay tax. Doesn't matter what it is, whether you're cashing out some Luna Classic yourself, or if you're using it to make a transaction, or if somebody's using it in transactions for their layer 2. It just, tax makes everything look that much more unattractive for business in general. And I don't know, burning, like you said, the unique thing with Binance. So do you remember when Binance, with their many wallets, was scooping up Luna Classic for way cheap, like 4 zeros and maybe even 5 zeros, and they could have even got it at 6 zeros, right?
Oh,
Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. That was like my first videos are all about that. That was like what really made me become HCC, was watching the greed of this blockchain sucking up all the coins. It's like, why are they doing this if it's dying? Why are they doing this if it's dead? What's the point?
Well, that's the Luna Classic they're burning. They're not burning. They're burning stuff they already bought for discount. So everyone's thinking they're burning the value of what it currently is, but they're never doing a buyback burn. So it depends on what your FICO is, right? Are they trying to count it as a loss? Or are they trying to count it as a gain? Are they doing first in, first out? Or are they doing first in, last out, or first in, first out? But FIFO or last in, first out, LIFO, FIFO. I might have it wrong. But the accounting principle for doing your taxes as a business, like, which model are they trying to follow? Because really it's just a loss for them, right? And if they're doing it a certain way, they could be claiming a loss at current LUNC value, and that giving them a huge tax break, because they're burning LUNC that they bought at a discount.
I think you're not wrong there, because the even more stranger thing about this subject is BitQuery used to work for our blockchain. As soon as we started getting real deep into the Binance stuff and people started to notice it, boom, BitQuery doesn't work for our blockchain anymore. It rarely works for any wallets, and it definitely doesn't work for any of Binance's wallets. So monitoring them is very complex. You've got to go through a lot of different, individual web pages, where BitQuery, you could literally have it all out in a big spider's web. You could organize the transactions. It was great. Whereas you just don't have that anymore. So God knows what they're doing. But this tax write-off thing, you're onto something there. You could be right. You really could.
Well, I mean, and even if I am right, it doesn't make Binance evil. It just makes them smart. It's like they're taking advantage of the ability to do what they can do. And we're looking at it as they're helping us, and they get to use it as a marketing gimmick to get people to use their Binance. So it's a win-win for them. It's a win-win-win for them and not necessarily a win for us because they have all this supply. They could literally do this forever.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. They can use it as like motives with so many things like they do. And what does a company like Binance need? They need people talking positively about them all the time. You know, this like plays into so many of their, I don't know if they have ball courts. This would be like in every ball court for them of why they should do it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a very proactive approach by them as far as helping Luna Classic succeed. I just haven't seen it. Maybe they are doing something behind the scenes that I don't know, but we haven't seen it as far as I know, right? So do they really care, or are they just a central exchange that took advantage of a situation and is okay with us being around because they took a gamble on buying the Luna Classic when it was super cheap, and they're able to burn it because they got it at such a discount. And you know, depending on which type of accounting theory they use, they could get a really nice tax deduction from that particular business that they did back then. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. I don't think it makes them bad. They're incentivized to do what they need to do to make their company successful, right? So it is what it is.
Definitely, yeah. No, I'm on this approach now as well. It doesn't make them a bad person. It actually makes them quite a smart business because they're using the law to how it should be used more or less if you want to defend your case, so to speak. But I think if you put your tinfoil hat on, I think a lot of people, they're under the belief that there possibly could be a substantial burn similar to what Vitalik did for SHIB at some point. And I think that could always be a possibility because crazier things have happened.
Wow, you never know. And I can understand like the timing right now is probably not right for something like that because we're so far away from a bull run, an actual bull run. I mean, I hear like people all the time, oh, Bitcoin went up 1,000. We're in a bull run. Bull run. No, we're not. You hear that all the time. But even in November, when the market should go back up a little bit, I'm still of the mind that I don't think we're going to see anything real bullish until after the elections and maybe in 2025. And I'm going to get a little political, but not political with Luna Classic, American politics. If Biden gets reelected, there's not going to be any economic easing, which means there's not going to be people with expendable income. So the bull run that is going to happen is going to be not as nice as it could have been without the economic easing. He might surprise me if he gets elected and he does the economic easing. Given the track record and his politics over the last 46 years, I guess, 47 years, that hasn't been how he deals with economics. So, yeah, I would like to see somebody in there that would do that.
And if people don't know why American politics affect crypto and just the world and everything so deeply, you should probably go look at World War II and the whole backing of the financial dollar and everything back then, which makes it the centerpiece of the financial sector, the reserve of mostly everything. It's so important to pay attention to politics on your side of the pond, especially for people like us. It really makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean the market, the stock exchange, the New York Stock Exchange, largest in the world, biggest market cap out of all stock exchanges. Yes, they definitely, what happens there is reflected on every other stock exchange. It's just the way it is. I mean, there might be different companies on other stock exchanges, but they all get affected by what happens in New York City, right? So kind of the way it is. And the petrodollar, as people like to call it that, which may not be the petrodollar for that much longer, because I think Saudi Arabia is accepting other types of payments now. Because they used to require people buying oil using US dollar, right? some of that might be changing where they're requiring different types of currencies or materials, for example, like gold or something, right? If that happens, then not just the US dollar and the American economy, but anybody that uses a currency that is essentially inflationary based on an IOU note, piece of paper IOU, that's not backed by anything like gold. We're gonna feel it. We're gonna feel the pain.
Yeah, it's called a renomination effect. In my country, they denominated all currency, meaning they got rid of coins that were worth their weight in the metal that they were made out of, so to speak. But yeah, this whole idea of people starting to accept gold over the dollar, this is not good. It's like really not good. That's actually something that starts to happen during, you know, times of distress. I don't want to say the word on the channel, but you know, it's one of those ones.
YouTube don't want you to say it, huh?
Yeah. Whoa! Gonna get a flag on. Okay gonna get a flag on this tomorrow, just like that. You said whoa at this point. God damn it! Oh, YouTube is so like meticulous with any kind of content. It's nuts. As soon as you say, I can't even say that word, but COVID. If you say that, boom, they put a COVID warning. Oh no, I'm going out.
It's God insane too, because it makes no sense, because that would make it not a public square, and YouTube should be a public square where anybody can talk. Now, obviously, if it's ridiculously offensive, it probably shouldn't be on there. But I tell you what, I've seen some pretty crazy videos on there that were allowed to be on YouTube for a very long period of time. So this whole censorship thing is relatively new, that came about during the last election. Before that, you could see all kinds of crazy things on YouTube.
Yeah, that's why Joe Rogan moved to Spotify. I'm like a religious listener of Joe Rogan. But you know, that's why he moved off of YouTube to Spotify, was just because of the censorship, the things you can't talk about and stuff like that. But hey ho, that is the world we live in, and we have to deal with it accordingly. But yeah, very biased, very cherry picking sort of situation.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you think about these other platforms like Locals and Rumble? Have you checked into those yet?
I can't say I've checked into them, but I've sort of looked at them, but I've not had a great amount of time to dibble dabble too heavily outside of the bubble, so to speak, that we're consistently in all of the time. Yeah, I need to, like I'm doing these podcasts with Semcom and Bitmoss, I need to start to get everything more out there and start to reach out more and get different kinds of people on. But you know, what's your opinion on that? You'll know a lot more than I do. So lay it on us.
Say again. My opinion on
Rumble and
on Rumble and Locals. All I know is a lot of YouTubers are going to moving a lot of their stuff over to one or the other. And usually it's the ones that have controversial topics that they're talking about. The ones that are talking about those current events that you're not supposed to talk about. Things that you and me will probably never talk about on YouTube if we're talking about crypto, right? I mean, although the COV 19 whatever, that has a lot to do with crypto, because it is one of the reasons, not only there's more money printed too, but that was one of the reasons that crypto had a little bit of a uptick last year.
Yeah, little ghost bull run.
Yeah, that was, so I mean, can't talk, as soon as we mention it and we'll say that it had a positive effect on something, is kind of weird that you can't talk about like things freely. It's like, do we have a Gestapo or something? It's like, it's weird. Like, why is that something that is brushed off the table for the public square? It makes no sense. But the world we live in, man.
That's it. We just have to go with the flow, so to speak, kind of like water. You know, if it's out of, I always like, you know, if it's out of your control, you just leave it. if it's something that you can try to make better, or you can try to make, more of an equal playing field, then, go for it. But one of those ones. So Jerry, talk to us, anything to, for the community, especially for your community that are going to be listening to this, is there anything you want to let them know, anything you want them to look forward to, any information you want to get out there as we head into the end of this?
Yeah. So as far as the, LUNASAPIENS, we're building, it's taking a long time. So be patient. I'll get that information out to the community as soon as possible. Have to have that audit. That audit's not going to be something that's going to take 2 hours. It's going to take some time, because it's a lot of back and forth between the auditor and the developer. And as soon as he finds something wrong, the developer has to go back to the drawing board. So it could take a while, and that's just the way it is. Now, with the podcast, I just want people to know that we're still going to be covering Luna Classic stuff, but we have crossed over to other Cosmos chains, and we have crossed over to NFTs, and expect to see maybe some Polygon NFT stuff going on, Ethereum and things like that. The creator of Boondocks, the cartoon, is potentially going to be on the podcast in the future. I can't make a promise. I'm getting introduced to him, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me on, though.
Bro, my mouth's wide open. How are you going to drop a bomb like that at the end? Oh, if you don't know what Boondocks are, honestly, you were born in a different time. Boondocks is freaking amazing. How have you snagged that? I don't know, but that, please link. I have to listen to that. That sounds amazing.
Well, it's going to be a work in progress, because obviously the person's really busy, but you meet everybody in Web3. And when you're open and you're authentic, and then you tell people what you're doing, it gets to a point where people just reach out their hand and, hey, I want to help you. And that's how this happened. They saw what I was doing with the podcast, and I had an artist on my podcast, and that artist knew some other people, which knew other people, and that's how it's going to happen. So he's one person that has a pretty good relationship with that individual, and that person's also involved in Web3, right? Is going to try to get him in a conversation with me, and we'll see where it goes. Now, PSX would give me feedback if he listens to this. Let's hope he doesn't listen to it. Okay, HappyCattyCrypto. Don't promise anything unless it's scheduled. And I'm like, yeah, it's not scheduled. It's not scheduled, guys. It's a hope. That's what it is right now. It's a hope.
Jerry, this has been absolutely amazing. Honestly, I've really appreciated you coming on, and it's been long overdue to have you on this podcast. But we're definitely going to be checking back in with you, and hopefully we can get together some sort of bigger podcast at some point where we can do something with like all of these different people and, BitMoss. Just try and get as many good people together to keep talking about this stuff. But, instead of this whole sort of like bickering manner or this argumentative manner, just giving your opinion and let that be that. That's what I like about podcasts. They're so straightforward. There's no junk in between.
100%. Thank you again for having me on. This was an awesome conversation.
More than welcome. Folks, links to absolutely everything to do with Jerry, all of his projects, the Uninterrupted podcast. If you didn't know about that, you know about it now. It's definitely something you should be checking out, and you should be checking into time to time if that's something you're interested in. Other than that, folks, remember the disclaimers at the beginning. Do read those. None of this has been financial advice from myself or Jerry. Other than that, stay safe, stay humble, and we'll catch you in the next one.